Is Andrew Yang being unfairly ignored? Analysis by Chris Zazilla, CNN editor-at-large. Let's read this joyous piece. Quick, tell me the 6 highest polling Democrats in the 2020 Democratic race. The first few are easy. Joe Biden, Elizabeth Warren, and Bernie Sanders. I'm sorry, Joe Melting Brain Biden, Madam Plan, and then Sanders. And if you are following things closely, you might even guess the next two. Kamala, lock you up for prison later for free California labor. Harris, and Pete Buttigieg. But who's next? Beto O'Rourke? Corey, deny you access to lower healthcare cost Booker? Snowman? Wrong, wrong, and wrong. It's actually Andrew Yang, the businessman, technologist, and the country's most high-profile proponent of universal basic income. According to Real Clear Politics' national polling average, Yang is running at 3%, ahead of 3 sitting senators, 2 House members, a governor, and Tom Steyer. Mr. Impeachment. Yang is already qualified for both the September 12th debate and the October debate. Despite all that, Yang is getting far less media attention than other candidates who are polling lower and not making those debate stages, according to an analysis by Axios released earlier this week. Yang ranked 14 out of the field of 19 in terms of articles written about his candidacy, and 13th in cable news mentions. He ranked 4th overall in Twitter mentions during the first 2 debates. Look at that big disparity. If you're a Yang supporter, notice how your candidate is in 4th place in terms of people mentioned on Twitter, but then he's all the way at 13 and 14 by these cable networks. Like, we have a really weird bias in favor of senators and people who are already in office. Like, we have this weird thing where we think they deserve more attention automatically because they won something else, no matter how far down they are, which is well stark, especially when you consider the coverage that candidates running behind Yang in terms of polling are receiving. O'Rourke, who is averaging 2.1% nationally, is ranked 5th in articles written about him in cable news mentions. Booker, the New Jersey senator, is 7th in articles written in 6th in cable news mentions, even though his polling average is below Yang's. New York City Mayor Bill I Won't Fire Eric Gardner's killer de Blasio, who is averaging 4% more of the vote than me or you, both at 0% respectively. Wait, what? I don't know what joke that was, but whatever. Ranked 6th in articles and 10th in cable news mentions. So why? Well, what it's not is some sort of widespread media conspiracy out to get Yang. Sorry, Yang gang. The media isn't organized enough to do that, even if they wanted to. I'm telling you, these people talk. These will be the same hoes crying that we don't vote for whoever their preferred candidate is, whether it's Harris or brain-rotting Biden. But then they want to tell you that you don't know what you're talking about when you say the media is purposely ignoring your candidate. You don't know what you're talking about when you have a literal screenshot of them skipping over him when he's in 6th place to cover someone below that in the top 6. Whatever, man. These people... But I think there are several things to consider when it comes to the gap between Yang's polling and fundraising success and the coverage he has received. Number 1, Yang is a total outsider, having never run for office before. So is Steyer. He gets covered. He got all kind of TV coverage with that stupid advertisement of his. That's not a bad thing, but what it means is that at the start of the race, no one, including reporters, had any sense of who he was. That's unlike, say, Booker, who has been a known commodity in national circles for the better part of the last decade or more. 2, Yang's ideas are radically different. Most of the top-tier candidates are running primarily on issues like healthcare, immigration, maybe guns. Yang is talking about the dangers posed to society by automation and the need for a universal basic income, which he calls a freedom dividend, a proposal in which every American citizen aged 18 years or older would receive $1,000 a month every month for their entire lives. It's different, and different poses challenges for a media used to covering a political race via a certain set of established guidelines. Well, the same thing with Gabbard. She's the only candidate that's like pushing hard against the war machine. And they purposely cut her out not to, give her any attention. Number 3, Ron Paul. Yes, Paul, the former Texas congressman. He ran for the Republican nomination twice, and he was, like Yang, someone who inspired huge devotion online and off. At every debate, the Paul forces were loud and proud. there was some chatter that he might stun the political world and win the nomination, except that Paul's support proved deep but not wide. Sure, there was a decent chunk of people who were drawn to his outspoken opposition to the Federal Reserve and his desire to pull the U.S. out of its various foreign military engagements. But A, there wasn't enough of that crowd, and B, Paul could never grow his support beyond that dedicated core. Yang has a lot of the same appeal as Paul, and there could well be a tendency to write him off as a result. That's basically saying anybody who has an actual group of dedicated online people is like automatically always going to be at 4 and 3%. It's like when you guys don't cover him, what do you expect his supporters to do? Be like, well, I guess I got to go get a candidate that CNN will talk about twice a week. Sorry, that was so stupid. Okay. In CNN's most recent 2020 ranking, which I co-authored, which is why it's trash, that's why you know it's garbage, we moved Yang out of the top 10, choosing Steyer, the wealthy businessman, instead. Why? Not because I hate Yang. Sorry, Internet. Rather because Steyer was poised to make the September debate stage. He wound up missing it by a single poll, and that his massive personal wealth made him slightly more viable than Yang. In retrospect, that was a mistake, one which we will correct in the ranking that will come out Thursday, which is today. The broader point here is that there are legitimate non-media conspiracy reasons to explain why Yang isn't getting noticed as much as he should be. But candidly, he should be getting more attention. If the 2016 election taught us anything, it's that voters are very sick of the status quo in politics as usual. Writing off Yang's candidacy because of his lack of political background or willingness to talk about less high prolific issues isn't a mistake we should make. So in conclusion, this article is dumb because he's trying to act like there's no reason ever to think the media is purposely doing anything that is shady toward a particular candidate, even though we've given examples. But at least he admits, yeah, we're making a mistake not covering this guy. I just hate that, like, it's that same kind of thing where they can't fully accept something. Like, yeah, he's not getting covered that much. That's not a conspiracy, it's not. It's like, but how do you know it's not if what they're saying has been verified by proof? Like, again, we just had the story of them cutting him out of the top 6 candidates on their own show. His mic apparently being cut off during that debate. You know, and like, why when you cite these things, or they act like there's some kind of like they can't fully acknowledge it. They have to give you throw you a little bone, like, oh yeah, maybe, sort of, kind of, we're not giving him a truthful fair shake. So Saliza is another one of these CNN people that only kind of a little bit knows they're talking about. They know what's going on, but because they're in their little corporate bubble, they don't want to acknowledge, it in its entirety. So that's why you get the little half-ended, middle of the road answers like this.